Today I'm joined by Axel, who's actually a very interesting player from the youth careers over in Finland to now the high rises in Lithuania and now back over in Finland. So I welcome you to the show, but I want you to start with who you are as a footballer and as a person.
Well, thanks for letting me be here. It's nice to sit down and talk about this stuff. I'm Akseli, Kalermo, 26 years old. As a football player, I played professionally in 6 different nations, seen the highest of highs and the lows of lows, so pretty much everything in between. So, yeah.
You started in a town with only 5,000 people. So you've come from a very, very different place to what most people would. Because if you ask a lot of Finnish people from someone over in the UK, they'd say they're probably from Helsinki or they're probably from another city. And you grew up in a city or a town, full of 5,000 people. So how easy or hard was it to get into football?
It's actually pretty hard, I would say, because there is not like any kind of academies or professional or even semi-professional environments. I think the first team of the town played in Division 7, which is fully amateur. They had only one youth team, which was like mix of boys and girls, and the age difference could be anything between 9 to 10 years. So yeah, it was not easy, but I think it's still like a nice way to start as a kid because it's a small town, you know everyone, so you always play with your friends, and it's kind of like more about fun stuff.
You must have been the best of the rest in terms of your friendship group and probably elsewhere in the town that you were in. But how did you get into football? Because you said it was difficult. So how did you stick out from the rest?
I was a very active kid. Like I always enjoyed sports. My dad was a ex-professional marathon runner, so I saw him train a lot. He was still like kind of active runner when I was growing up. So I was always into sports. And then I remember it was one summer when I think it was McDonald's who hosted like a football school in my town, and my mom asked that, would you like to go there and join us with your friends? I was just, yeah, of course, because I was into anything. I was playing handball, basketball, whatever. And I went there and I saw that football was the game that I enjoyed the most and never looked back since.
What's handball like? Because I've always thought it's just football with your hands. I mean, is that correct?
It's handball, so I'm not the best one to tell you, but it's similar. Like you want to score goals and you can pass, and you know.
So when you started in your academy days, you told me that you were playing 8 years older. So you're playing with ridiculously probably more physical people, which we'll get into later because you didn't become the most physical players later down the line. So when you were playing 8 years older, did it feel like a challenge to you, or were you still just the best?
I was so young back then, so it was more like having fun with the ball. It was not about like any kind of professional environment where I would have to actually like try to push myself to just to play. So it was like active play for all of us. So it was not really that difficult.
And you were scoring all the goals because you were a striker / winger. And at this age, you still must have been that because later on we'll go on to learn that you did become a centre back, which is a bit of a weird one, but it's also one that a lot of attackers sort of mold into as they become older because that just seems to be the position for them, especially the taller, stronger ones. But when you were playing in an attacking role, did it just feel correct? Did you feel like you were the god?
Yeah, it was like my favorite player was Cristiano Ronaldo. When he was back in Man United, not the second time, but the first time. I would say the 07-08 season was probably the best ones. And I was just trying to copy him, like do everything like him and buy the same shoes than him. And, you know, it was like do all the tricky stuff on the pitch and just enjoy football.
And were you enjoying football? Because as I said, we will go on to learn that you did struggle a bit with your mental health. And when you were at this age, what age were you when you were playing 8 years older?
I was 7, 8, 9 years old. I started when I was 7. Yeah, the football school when I was 7. So.
And what was this football school like? Because we spoke about the small village that you were playing in, and it must have been hard, like you said, to get into football. But when you were in this academy, did you feel like it was a proper one, or was it just a makeshift one to keep the kids and the parents happy?
Yeah, it was like a makeshift one. It was just to keep the kids active. Nothing like that. Like I told you, the first team was playing in the 7th division. In that town, there was like I don't think any athletes around. Like my dad was probably the most famous one because he was the marathon runner and he was actually pretty good. He was running in the national team level. But yeah, it was most of the kids wanted to do track and fields or something like that. But football was never really the main sport of the city.
Well, 5 years later, you moved to accommodate your footballing abilities to a village or town of 25,000 people. So that's quite a big increase to what you were used to. And what was that like? How was it like to adjust to a more city-like lifestyle?
No, it's funny when you call it city because it's still like a super small place. But like back in the days, it seemed like a big step for me because, like I said, my first, like where I started, it was only 5,000 people. Everyone knew each other. So when I went to the little bit bigger town, it was like I didn't know everyone, and they thought I was a hillbilly from a small place. So yeah, it was not easy, but as a kid, you come along.
What was it like there with the opportunities for football? Was it easier to get into because you moved there to accommodate your footballing side of the game? So what was it like over there?
Well, it was great because their first team, it's called KPV. They actually played in the second highest league of Finland during that time. So they were like at least semi-professional and some professionals in the first team. So they had like a real academy divided by age groups and even divided by levels like team 1, team 2, etc. So yeah, it was like a big step because they're actually like started to train. Like I saw that they have to train to kind of be able to play, and in that sense, it was great.
This was the team that made you become a centre back, or sort of pushed you into the corner a little bit because there was injuries in the team, which is again something that happened later down the line. So, what was it like to become a centre back from such an attacking role, scoring the goals, but now you've got to defend the goal?
It started as a joke. It was like like this aerial national teams. There's like Finland is divided by 6 or 7 like bigger areas, and those areas collect the best 20 players and they play against each other. And we had one tournament like that, and I was in the team as a right winger, and our center backs both got injured and the third one was sick or something like that, and the coach was like, who am I going to put there? And because I was tall, and back in that time I was not that great winger because I had that huge leap in height, so I was not very mobile or fast anymore. So the coach was like, yeah, you're going to play center back today. I'm like, really? Yeah. So I played one game, went amazing, had a amazing game. And after that game, the coach of that team called to my club team and said that, yeah, this guy has to play as a center back. Like, he's going to play as a center back. I think it's a better option for him.
It only got better for you because then you moved into a national level. You played in the under-15s up to the under-18s, and you were captaining them all the way through. What was that like to captain such an amazing young group of players?
It all happened so fast. I think I was 14 when I played my first game as a center back. I was still kind of fast, not in the like change of direction phase, but if we only talk about straight running, balls behind line, I had a good height, so the physicality was pretty good back then in that sense. So yeah, it was like a very strange moment when I was called up to the national team. Like I was kind of expecting it because I did so well in the like local area team. But yeah, I was called up and I didn't know I was going to be a captain. I was just like, yeah, I'm in the team, and all the other guys were playing in the much better teams than I was, and I'm talking about the capital area in Finland. The best players are usually in the capital area because there's the best academies. So yeah, I was just called up, and we had the first 2 games against Slovakia, and I think it was the day before the first game when the coach announced that I'm going to be the captain. And I was like, what? Yeah, you're the captain. Oh, okay. But yeah, I was like very like good socially. I've always been pretty good socially, that I was kind of friends with everyone and took everyone like in consideration. So yeah, it felt pretty natural after that.
What's it like to be a national player? Because we talk about academies and we talk about players playing for their countries, and you could say there's a similar adjustment to life because of the amount of pressure that they put on you to succeed. Otherwise, you could be out the team in a matter of days. And what was it like then? How were you treated as a youth player over in Finland?
Well, I was treated very well. I think from the under 15s until under 18s, I was the captain. I always used to play very well. I didn't struggle at all. Like when I went to play with national team, I didn't feel any pressure. I was just enjoying it. And when you're enjoying it, it's easy. And when everything is going well, it's easy. But yeah, obviously, if you are in a situation that you are kind of having to think about whether I'm going to be selected or not, then it can be more difficult, or you will take more pressure. But because I knew that I was going to be selected always, and I almost thought that I'm always going to play well, so it was so easy. Like there was no complications there.
It must have been quite a rapid progression to becoming a national team player, as you said. But do you think that progression helped, that you were playing when you were younger with children 8 years older than you? That must have been a big help.
Yeah, it can be. Obviously, when you play with kids that are more physical than you can find ways to beat them not with power, but with your brain or with your skills. So yeah, it can be a factor. But like I said, it was more like just having fun for us when we were kids. So I was not really thinking about it, but like maybe it still helps. I don't know.
You ended up playing against players like Tammy Abraham and Dominic Solanke, very good Premier League players, and obviously now one of them's over in Roma scoring all the goals. How did this come about? What age were you? And how did you know who the players were? And how did you know how far that they would go?
This was under 17 European qualification. We played against Italy, England, and North Macedonia. And obviously in Italy also there was great players like Locatelli, I remember, in midfield. I used to fight with him in that game. But yeah, I didn't really know who Abraham was or Solanke. We just saw where they played, and there was like Liverpool, Chelsea, obviously in the academy, but still like big clubs. So yeah, we used to go to the Google and check the players and be like, oh shit, he's been with the first team or something like that. And then when we played against them, it's obviously fun. But the game itself was very bad because the weather conditions were horrible the night before. So the whole pitch was like soaking wet, and you couldn't really pass the ball. I think we could have lost 5-0, but we only lost 1-0 because the pitch was so bad that when Abraham was through on goal, the ball would stop on the grass and the defender could take the ball. So yeah, it was a funny game.
You must have been, you said it was easy to play in your national team, but you must have thought that a player could take your chance at any point, because we know how quickly, especially over in England and America and places like that, how quickly these players are coming through. You know, you get the great facilities. Did the facilities in Finland, did they benefit you? Because we know some players across the world don't get this opportunity, but other Finnish facilities, are they top class?
No, they're not. I have to be 100% honest. They're not. They are better now than they used to be. But I moved to Sweden when I was 16. I moved to Stockholm. I played for Brommapojkarna, which is the biggest academy in Sweden. I think size-wise, it's one of the biggest in whole Europe. But level-wise, it was the, let's say, top 3 in Sweden. Very good academy. They had like full-time coaches, physiotherapist, fitness coach. They help you with nutrition, gym work, with everything, basically. You can go to school in the morning, and in the midday you can train during your school day. In Finland, they didn't have all that. I know that there is some schools who have like kind of agreements with the club that the players can go and train during the school day, but that's not everywhere. Like it's still lacking a lot, in my opinion. Like the kids don't get enough training compared to the players abroad. So it's a big issue, but I think it's getting much better. And I think already now in capital area, it is pretty good. You could call it professional academies, but I still think that there is a lot of work to do in that sense.
Why was Sweden then? Why were they ahead of Finland in this infrastructure race?
I don't know. Just look at the Swedish players throughout the years and the level of national team. I think it's quite clear indicator they're doing something right, because Swedish national team has been playing in the Euros and in the World Cups far long before Finland. So I think that the culture of football, it's the main sport of Sweden. In Finland, it's ice hockey. It still is. So I think that's one thing, because all the money in Finland is going into ice hockey. At least it used to go. Now it's kind of, I would say, balanced 50-50 football and ice hockey, what people like. But back in the day, it was mainly ice hockey in Finland, and football was like we were always talking like, yeah, we have okay players, but we're a small country and we cannot achieve anything. And now it has all changed. Like since the first Euros, the boom has been good.
Is Sweden similar to Finland? Was the transition over to your next door neighbour, was it quite a simple one, or again, was it quite difficult?
Yeah, culture-wise, it's pretty similar. Only difference was that I was moving into Stockholm, which is obviously a big city. So that was the main difference. I was living in a big city, and I couldn't speak Swedish when I moved to Sweden. I had to start studying really fast, and it kind of took, I would say, 3 to 5 months just to adapt there, language-wise, and get some friends. But yeah, obviously it's not easy when you're 16. You're very young. You don't know a lot about life or anything. So yeah, it's never easy, but it was the decision I took, and I'm happy with it.
Did your parents not move to Sweden with you? Was it just you?
No, it was me. I had one friend from Finland. His name is Matias Lindfors. He used to be a youth national team player as well, and the club signed both of us, so we lived together in Stockholm. So I had a Finnish friend in the academy.
When the move to Sweden came along, you must have been quite shell-shocked then, should we say, because of the facilities that you were getting used to, because it was just normal to you now, whereas before it was a bit difficult to get access to the best gyms, to the nutritionists. Would that, if you stayed in Finland and you stayed with the not so good facilities, would you have been the player that you are today?
Honestly, I don't know. It's a very hard question to answer, because if we had the same facilities than let's say the Swedish academies back in the day, I don't know if I would have moved to Sweden, to be honest. I really don't know. If the facilities were same, I probably would have stayed. And then maybe I could not have experienced some of the stuff that I experienced in Sweden. The good and the bad, because obviously when you experience hard things like homesickness or making new friends and having it difficult socially, it's kind of you grow there, and you grow the character that you need as a player. So if I just stayed in Finland and being comfortable, maybe it would have been a different story. Who knows?
Who was it then that really pushed your career, or what was the moment that made your career what it is today? Because you ended up at Atalanta, so maybe we could lead into that, or we could stay over where you were in Sweden. And what was it like to adapt socially? Because we all know that if you haven't got the best support group around you, you are going to struggle, whether it be on the pitch or off the pitch.
Well, I think the main, like, I adapted pretty well in Sweden. The main issue was when I started that I was used to the kind of Finnish way of being nice to everyone, and it was not as competitive in Finland. But there in Sweden, for example, in Bromma Poikana, let's say there is an under 17 team. There can be 10 teams below the first team, like the main academy team. And all the players in the teams below the first team, they want to be in the first team. So there you kind of have the pressure that, okay, now you have to do well just to keep your spot in the team. I was 16, but I went to under 19 team right away. So it was great. Didn't really play a lot with the under 19s, to be honest. I played a few games here and there. Then I went to play with the under 17s. I was always training with the under 19s, but went to play with under 17s a lot. And even sometimes with the under 21s, because in Sweden they have this great system that the players who are not getting enough playing time in the under 19 or in the Allsvenskan, they can play in the under 21 league. And obviously the level is great because it's a mix of young players from the academy and some younger players who are already in the first team but not getting enough minutes. So I got that covered there.
You also got the move to Atalanta, and it would have been around this period. So when you were in Sweden, what was it like to play there, and how did you end up going to Italy?
It was really good. I think I really enjoyed my time in Sweden. I had all these difficulties socially because I was just a kid. I was 16 when I went there. Back in the day, you thought that, oh, I already know some things, and you're 16 and you're growing up, but no, you don't know anything really. So yeah, it was like a really great learning experience for me to be in Sweden, and I think in the end when I left, I think I actually cried when I left Sweden because I loved it already so much. Like I made good friends and I was so familiar with the academy, and like it was like a home to me. But it was like more like if club like Atalanta wants you, how can you say no? Like I was thinking about it a lot. Is this the best move to make, or what should I do? But then in the end of the day, I was like, yeah, if they ask you to come, how many more times are they going to ask? And I just left. So it was not easy to go in Atalanta, but it was something that I just had to do. I felt like I had to take this chance.
And then when you landed in Italy, that must have been again another story, but also a bit of another move again, because you've gone from a town of 5,000 people to now a big city full of a lot of people. So that must have been again something that you may have been used to by now, but it would have been something a bit weird to get used to once again. The language, the culture. What was the culture like for you? Was it easy to adjust because you're going to quite a warm place now?
No, it was really, really difficult. It was much more difficult than I expected, because in the Nordic countries we have this feeling that everyone can speak English. They are in the Europe, like they can speak English. But when I went there was actually just one guy from the club who spoke English, and he was the tutor of the kind of academy housing apartment complex, and he was not always there. So when my plane landed, there was some worker from the club who picked me up. He had a sign for my name, but he didn't speak any English. I didn't know where I was going. He just took me to the players' hotel. I met some guys there, but no one speak English. And they just showed me, oh, here's your room. And, I went there and I was like, fuck, what am I going to do? I don't know. Where's the lunch? So, yeah, it was like I had to use Google Translate and stuff. So I think in Italy, it took like 3 months for me to actually start to kind of get into the system. And I only spent 1 year there, so 3 months is a lot from that. But it was really, really difficult. I didn't expect that, but it was really hard.
This 1 year that you spent in Atalanta felt to me, when I was reading and listening to you, it felt like a long time, because you ended up meeting some amazing players, but you did struggle again. So you shared a room with a player that everyone should be knowing by now, Franc Kessié, who now plays, I think, over in Saudi Arabia, played for Barcelona, AC Milan. But you didn't speak to each other because there was a language barrier. But you said to me that there was a very interesting thing that happened when he moved from Africa to Italy. So could you talk us through that move?
Yeah, it was like a normal sunny day in our apartment complex, and we saw this guy arriving with the team bus outside the apartment complex, and he was only like wearing slippers and some random T-shirt and a plastic bag. But we knew that he was a player because he was like kind of fit looking and young guy, so he must be a player. But no one knew who he was. Then we asked someone like, who is this guy? And, oh, he's Frank from Ivory Coast. He arrived here. Like, he's going to be actually training with the first team. And we were like, with the first team? Yeah. He's going to be training with the first team. And he was training with the first team and playing with us, with the Primavera, the second team. And there is a lot of funny stories about this guy. But I remember him arriving like a really, really, African player, first time in Europe. Probably very difficult for him as well. But I remember, I think he received his first salary and he went to buy Gucci and all these like nice clothes and, something that he always dreamed about. And it was like you could see the happiness in him. And his name was also funny because we called him Frank. He's Franc Kessié, but he's like Frank. It's like British name or American name. So he's like a Frank, but from Ivory Coast. Yeah.
What was he like then as a player? Because, as we said, you didn't really talk to him, but there must have been exchanges. But the exchanges for you two were smiles.
Yeah, as a player, he was great. Like I saw from the first training that he's a good player because obviously his body is built like a brick wall. Like he's super strong, shielding the ball, compared with the good technique, very good passing ability. In overall, very smart player. Not, I would say that most of the time when I saw a young African player arrive we had many players on trial, for example, from Africa. Most of them were like always strong, but like they were struggling with the technique or the kind of intelligence in the game. And in Italy, they're super careful about the tactical part. It's very important that you understand what the coach wants from you. And the funny thing was that he could not understand the coach or his instructions, but he still played very well every time he played. Like he didn't have to understand what the coach was saying. Like he was reading the game so well very early on.
When you moved to Italy, you weren't expecting to be in the first team, but you ended up playing there because of some injuries. Let's talk through about this period then, because it must have been a weird step up, because you weren't going there expected to be training with players like Papu Gomez and players like that at this level that have gone on, like Zappacosta at Chelsea as well. So what was that like then to move into a first team of a very good club?
Yeah, it was pure luck for the first time. It was, I think I told you in the voice message, when I arrived to Italy, there was a big issue with my license to play, like from the Swedish FA or something like that. I couldn't get the license to play with the reserve team. And the reserve team was traveling to, I don't remember, some away game during the weekend. And first team had a training that day in the morning. And one of their center backs got injured or sick or something. I don't remember. But anyway, I got a text from the assistant coach in the first team that, the coach wants you to come and train with us because you have to be a backup player. One of our center backs is going to miss the training. I was like training with the first team, and I knew already like what kind of players they have. And I was like, oh, okay. I was super nervous and everything. And someone came and picked me up from the training center. He took me to the youth side, the academy side. There, it's divided in. It's called Singonia. It's divided by first team facilities, and then there's the academy one. And it's very difficult to actually go into the first team locker rooms or anything. So I went to the academy ones, changed my clothes, ran to through the building, went to the first team pitch, not in the locker room, straight to the pitch. And the coach was just greeting me like a kid, like ragazzo, hello ragazzo, like how are you? And then I just start training, just like just to fill the training, nothing special. But the training ended up going very well. Like I was doing really great in that training. And after the training, the coach said, okay, you are going to come tomorrow also. And I was like, okay, I can come. and kind of it started from there. I was training maybe twice a week with the first team and the rest of the trainings with my own team, the second team. But it was partly because I didn't have the license to play, so I didn't have to be in those trainings that were like preparing for the matches. And partly because I did very well, and this coach, I think he liked me. I can't even remember his name. He was an Italian coach, kind of old school. But then obviously he got fired at some point. Atalanta was like, back in the days, they used to be like a mid-table-ish team. Like right now, they're like playing Champions League and Europe League or whatever. But back in the day, they were a much smaller team in Serie A. But yeah, it was a big surprise to go there. Very good experience to go there. I didn't expect it to happen, but it just happened. I went with the flow. And the kind of, I think the year in Italy was the first year when I saw first of like the obstacles as a football player, because like I told you before, my career went like very quickly to a very good point, and then it kind of crashed also very quickly. So because I hadn't had to face any like difficulties in that sense, like not being selected or being injured for a long time or anything like that. Like everything was always so smooth. And in Italy, I got those first injuries in, and that combined with the social thing and finding it difficult to, having friends and missing home. You're still a young guy. I was 18 when I was there, so yeah, all that combined, it was like a really good and really hard year in the same time.
Was there ever a time where you travelled with the team to a game with the first team and you managed to get on the bench or just go with the team?
No, I was never in the squad.
But was that a disappointment because you said that you impressed them in training, or you thought you did?
Yeah, I don't know if it was a disappointment because I didn't have the license to play even in the reserve team, so I would not have the license to play with the first team. But I know that in Italy they have this massive benches. At least they used to have. I think you could have 10 or 11 players as a in the bench, and sometimes some young guys they can go there in the bench just to build their name or build their value. But no, that never happened with me.
At a club like Atalanta, if you wanted to compare them with the Premier League size, for those who aren't so aware, you'd be calling them, I don't know, an Aston Villa, for example, of the
Mm.
Premier League. And we know how good their facilities are, but how good are the facilities in Atalanta? Because I don't really, apart from Amadou Diallo, possibly, who's come through the academy, I don't think there's any big other names that have come through. Or am I mistaken?
The facilities are great. They have, like I said, the first team facility. They have two very good natural grass pitches. They have their own gym, locker room, spa, hotel, everything. The academy they have, I think, one natural grass and two artificial ones. Own gym, kitchen, and all that stuff. But it was nothing compared to when I was in England. I was having a trial with Middlesbrough, so I think the facilities in England were still like a bit better than in Italy.
What was the time like that you spent in Middlesbrough? Because you said to me that you were annoyed and disappointed not to get in, but then you said about the physicality that that
Mm.
you weren't physically ready to be able to play,
Mm.
and it would have taken some time to adapt to Premier League standards. Talk to me about what could have been if you joined Middlesbrough, but also tell us what happened when you were at the trial.
Well, again, it's very hard to say what could have been or whatnot, but the main thing was that I never played in, like, in England the game is always physical. You have to be physical. It's just there's no other way. In Italy, it was physical, but not as physical as in England. Same in Sweden. It's quite physical, but not as physical in England. In England, you as a centre back in England, you just have to be super strong, good in the air, good in the duels, and stuff like that. And I was more like a ball playing, good vision, passing ability, smart guy, not the biggest guy who tackles everyone and wins all the headers. So when I went to Middlesbrough, I saw very early on that I was much different from the other centre backs. They were like, I was already tall, like I was 190 centimeters back then, and the other centre backs were even taller than me and like much stronger, like muscle wise. They had much more muscle mass and everything, but they couldn't play with the ball. Like they were just kicking it long and winning the headers. And like in the end of the day, I don't know if it would have been the best place for me because the Middlesbrough under 23s or under 21s, I don't remember which one it was back then. I think it was under 23s already then. It was not a top class academy in England, as you know. It's still like, yeah, it was a Premier League academy, but it was not as good as Chelsea or whatever. So it's very hard to say what could have been or whatnot. But I was still very disappointed not get in because I thought that I was so good in the other areas than the other centre backs. But I guess if you have the money, you don't have to wait. So that was basically the thing. They said that we would need at least 6 to 8 months to get you physically ready to play in England, and they just don't want to take the time to do that. And that was end of story. And I spent 1 month there, so obviously I was disappointed.
Where was this then in the Atalanta side of things? Were you currently then at Atalanta, or did you leave them to go to England?
I left Italy in the start of the second season. I had a pretty bad back injury. It was very strange because we couldn't figure out why until I went to Finland, and it was because my SI joint was kind of dislocated or something. Like, it was very strange. I had pain everywhere. I couldn't tie my shoes. So when I left Italy, I thought that I was going to go back, but in another team. Didn't happen because of the injury. I was out for 2 months, I think, like fully resting. I couldn't do anything with the back, just physiotherapy. And yeah, I signed to Finland after that.
You went back to Finland for the rehabilitation, and then you also went to go and play there. Were you playing in the top flight, or did you go back and go down a few divisions?
It was top flight, yeah. It was actually a very good team. Rops, they're now in the third division of Finland. I think they promoted to second for this season, but they used to be a top flight team back then. And they won the silver medal on my first season. I arrived in the summer, in the mid-season, because in Finland we play from April until November. So I arrived in the summer with the injury. So yeah, my first season we won the silver medal. I didn't play because I was not ready to play, but anyway, the team was doing great. It was we had a lot of good players.
What was time like in Finland? Because we spoke about the facilities, and I'm quite keen on understanding facilities around the world, because when you come from England or you go to France or Germany, they do have the world-class facilities. Did you start to see improvements at this point, or the facilities just the same?
No, it was the opposite, because when I was in Atalanta and when I was in Middlesbrough, like I got used to all this nice stuff. Like I would have a perfect kitchen with perfect breakfast, with perfect gym program, with my own coach in the gym, all of this. And then I went to Finland, where there was one guy having a gym training with all the players, and it was not individualized or anything. It was like group training. Everyone was doing the same exact things with the same exact weight. The stadiums are artificial, not natural grass, and all that stuff. So it was like kind of I should have realized when I went back, but when I was young and naive and I don't understand, so it was like kind of frustrating that nothing was working the way I was used to working. But yeah, it was not like a positive transition in that sense, in facility sense.
You said about artificial and natural turf, like grass. Why does that affect you if you're playing on the artificial turf?
The artificial one is much faster. So if you're a centre back, a tall centre back, you want to play in natural grass because it's a little bit slower, and the strikers, they cannot move the ball as fast as they can in the artificial. Or if the artificial grass is wet, then it's horrible to defend, because the ball is like very slippery and bouncing all over the place, and it can be hard to clear from the box and whatever. Of course, it's still not easy in the natural grass if it's wet, but it's still easier. So yeah, I always enjoyed playing more in natural grass.
How did the time at the Finnish return into the top flight, how did that affect you? Because you said that you didn't play in get involved in to get the silver medal, and then what happened? What happened during the time, and then how did it all end?
Well, my first actual season there was after this silver medal season, when we started the next preseason. I signed a contract for 1.5 years, so the first half a year I was just recovering from the injury and getting into the team. And then in my second season, I was expecting to play. Obviously, when you're young, you don't realize what your own level is. Like, you cannot be really honest with yourself. And to be honest, I was okay for that age, but I was not as good as I thought. Because, like I said, the physicality was the main thing. I was playing with adults now, like with the men's team. And ever before that, I was only playing with the youth sides. So it's a different game again. It doesn't matter how well you can pass the ball if you cannot tackle or win the header. It doesn't matter. So I was far too weak to play week in, week out with men's team. And also I was playing as a right back in the preseason because I have a good running ability, like endurance wise. So the coach really liked me as a right fullback. And probably not the best move for me, but like whatever you do, what the coach say. And yeah, I played. I would say in the preseason I played a lot. When the season started, I played like every third game, every fourth game, some minutes here and there. Never really made it like a regular starter. So then I went on loan, the first division of Finland.
It must have been challenging, because apart from facing injuries, you faced mental injuries, you faced mental challenges, and it really, you at one point you were thinking about quitting football, and I think this happened twice. But I want to talk about the time just before what you were talking about, just before the silver medal, and you were in England doing all these trials, and there was a point around this time where you just thought football's not for me.
Yeah, it's like you give it so much, but then in the end you don't receive as much as you would like, and that's the hardest thing. But like I said, my career went like very quickly up. I never really faced any challenges, and then when I start facing those challenges, I didn't have the tools to handle them mentally or physically, so it break me down a bit. I was not that like I was still when I returned from England. I was still like very keen on playing, but it was like the first moments when I started to realize that, oh, maybe this is not as easy as I thought. Like football is like anything can happen and stuff like that. But yeah, it's like one thing that I think that the people don't realize is that even to be as a professional football player, like you can imagine, like when I went to all these good teams like Atalanta and Middlesbrough on trial and stuff like that, you can kind of set some kind of like a, I don't know, level or standard for yourself where you want to be. And when that doesn't happen, it's very hard for yourself to accept that you're not good enough. It's very hard. Like it's the hardest thing in football or maybe even in life, that you have to accept at some point that you are not good enough. What should I do to be good enough? And that transition took a long time for me because I was so kind of, I don't know, I wouldn't say full of myself. Like I was always a humble person, but like I was not realizing the main issues. Like I was trying to push them away and just assure myself that, yeah, I am good enough. Someone's gonna do something for me. And I was not doing the work myself, mentally or physically, because the physicality was my main problem, but I was not doing anything about it. I was just waiting and hoping, So that doesn't work in football.
Mentally, how did you overcome the challenge? Because I believe you moved to Lithuania and you've always been grateful for that opportunity because you ended up playing over 70 times there. What was it like facing mental challenges? Because you have a lot of people say that they have got mental trouble, which is true, but some people more than others. And for a sport that you loved at such a later age, at the age of 21, 22, however old you were at this point, you must have been quite upset and angry with yourself that you didn't focus on the physicality side, because if you focused on that earlier, you could have been a lot further to where you were at that point.
Yeah, it's like, I think it was 2016 2017 season when I had that one season in the first division of Finland, and that went pretty well. I played 28 games in the first division. I got moved back to the Premier League of Finland after that season, and I didn't play. I played one game and few games with the reserve team. A horrendous season. Like it was a season that I would not hope anyone to get, but it was. Couldn't get any minutes with the first team. The coach could not really give me an explanation why, or he was just, I think he said that he was afraid of me making a mistake, and that's why he didn't play me. And I was angry to him at the time. Obviously, I didn't show it, but like I was angry to him at the time. But now later on, I understand what he meant, because I was not mentally ready to play in that level. And that's because when you come from these injuries, you haven't played for a long time. And you can imagine, because my ego was very high because I was all in these good teams. And then when I went to the lower level and I couldn't succeed in the lower level, that's like when you actually start to have these ideas that, okay, maybe I'm just a player. Like, what should I do? And I remember in that season at some point when I actually realized that I'm not going to play this season. Like, it's not going to happen. Like, the coach is saying that it's not going to happen, and I know it's not going to happen. But I'm still here. I have the contract on the end of the year, so I have to be here. What should I do? Do I want to quit or continue? And that horrible season ended up being a really good season for me, because it was the first time when I actually stopped in my career to think, like, what should I actually do? And what is it that I actually want to do? And yeah, during that year, I started to train like animal. I woke up 6 a.m., went running, gym, team training, lunch, gym, every day. Almost every day in the week, maybe one rest day, or the match day could be my rest day because I was just in the bench or in the stands. But I was training like an animal. I was studying what to eat, how to recover, how to sleep better, all this stuff. Start getting interested in psychology. I hired my own psychologist sport psychologist, and talk with her once per week, and I start to turn the kind of cycle around.
Isn't that unhealthy to be? I mean, you said that you were like a gym animal and you were like just training all the time and playing all the time, and there was literally no rest in your life. Isn't that unhealthy? Because you need some time aside from football to just mentally and physically calm yourself down, to calm the muscles in your body. Otherwise, you're going to increase the chances of injury.
Yeah, I will say in a regular case, yes, but in that season, when you know that you're not going to play on the weekend, you just have the team trainings. That's all you have to worry about. And those team trainings are once per day, maybe twice a day in the beginning of the week, but normally it's just once per week. And closer to the weekend, when we have the game, the trainings are going to get easier. So imagine you are not doing anything extra. You're just training with the team and hoping for something to change. It's never going to happen. It's just not going to happen. So I had to make a decision to do something myself. And because I knew that I was not going to play, I was working really hard for myself, just working, just to make it possible to continue my career. Because that season was actually so bad that if I didn't do anything, it would be really difficult to even find a new team or succeed anywhere in the future. Like that was the season when I actually decided to start doing something and turning the cycle around.
How did it come across then that you became this animal and this gym freak, if you like? Because were you doing a part-time job, or was it just your full-time mentality? Because to hire out a psychologist, to go to the gym all the time, it costs money. So how can you afford all of that?
Well, I had a salary from football, and it was a blessing because I had all this time. Like when you're a football player, you have all this time. Some players, they play PlayStation 14 hours a day and go to training, but I had to like I said, it was a moment where I had to actually decide what I want to do. I had all this time. I had all these resources. Obviously, I got the gym programs from the fitness coach. I had the facilities where to train. I had the lunch from the club. I had all the things I need to build myself. So it would have been stupid to not use them because I had all the time also. So it was just a decision. Obviously, it's not very cheap to hire a psychologist, but what other option do you have? Because when you go to the pitch, you feel like you cannot play, and you still want to play, but you cannot play because you're so stuck mentally.
What does the psychologist do? Because I think they just sort of tell you, like they kind of have a hand around your shoulder and just keep you company. What more do they do?
I have a good example. I remember I was explaining to her about one game where, I'm playing as a center back, and I can see that the long ball is coming from the left back of the other team, and it's gonna go over me. And they have a fast striker. And in that moment, when I see that he's gonna kick the long ball, I'm feeling inside of me that no, please don't kick it. I don't want to run with this guy. I cannot beat him. He's faster than me. You don't trust yourself. And I was just explaining her all my emotions, what I feel when I play, what I feel before the game, what do I feel after the game. And during those years of my career, I never played so that I would enjoy the game. I was almost hoping that the game would be over before it even started. And obviously you cannot play like that. So I was just explaining her that situation, what I felt. And then she asked, okay, but why? Why are you nervous to lose that ball? What happens if you lose that ball? If the striker goes and scores, who is going to be angry with you? Is your coach going to be angry with you? And I said, no, probably not. Or maybe, but not in the long term. What about your teammates? No, they're my friends. No problem. Okay, so you are afraid of what people are saying outside the pitch, like people from the stands or the fans or something. I'm like, I really I think that's the issue. And then okay, again, why? Why do you care what they say? Because you are in the pitch. It's your decision to be in the pitch. You have done all the work to be in that pitch, and you have decided to play football. Do you still want to play football? Yes. Okay, so why do you care what people say in the stands when they are not even playing there? They are not on your level to comment the game, It's just part of the being an athlete to be criticized. And like I said, my career went up really quickly, never criticized, never any obstacles. And then suddenly I have a lot of obstacles. And then, obviously when you have a lot of obstacles and you come from kind of higher standard to lower, and you still cannot succeed, people like to talk. They like to talk that he's done, he's not good, he's not good enough, he's finished, you know. And I couldn't handle it. It was just the fact. I could not handle it. So that's why I needed the professional help. And I think that was the main thing that I always will remember when I was talking with the psychologist. He was like, why? Why do you care? Because why do you play football? Why do you go to training every day? Why do you do all this extra work? Because of some idiot can shout that you are. Do you really care? I was like, that's true. I don't really have to care. Yeah. That's just one example. Yeah.
You were at the lowest of lows at this point. How did you get back to the highest of highs? Because we know how the career, or we're going to know how the career ended up turning out when you moved to Lithuania. Was Lithuania the best of ideas for you when you look back on it?
So it was 2020. The COVID hit. I was a free agent, and I had all this time. When I was I think I was free agent for 5 months, almost. I had all this time to work with the psychologist, just work for my body in the gym, get ready mentally, physically. And I had no idea about Lithuania before that. And it was very strange. Like, it's a guy called Alexei. He just texted me on Facebook, like, hey, do you want to play in Lithuania? Like, I see you're still a free agent. I know that you're a good player, but your career has been going very bad lately. But I think we can turn it around here. And I was like, I didn't have any other options back then. I was like, yeah, why not? Let's give it a try. So yeah, I went to Lithuania and had no idea what to expect, but it was really, really valuable time for me.
The culture shock once again. I spoke to someone who played over in Lithuania, who recently played over there in the last few months, and he said that the culture shock is just obscene. It's very Russian-like. It's very hard language, really old school. Did you feel that when you were there? How was it like to talk to the teammates and the coaches?
I remember my first training when I arrived. I walked into the locker room, and no one said hello, or no one came to shake my hand. I think maybe the captain said, hello, how are you? Welcome. And no one else said a word. And I was really lucky because in my team was one other center-back with the same age as me. And I played against him multiple times with national team. I played against Lithuania, like in the under 16s, 17s, 18s, whatever. So I remembered him. I went to talk to him about that. And that was like the kind of first thing that I spoke with the Lithuanian guy. And it was like a really slow, like they really have to accept you into the team. Like if you just come as a foreign player, you have to be good. If you're not good, they don't respect you at all. They just think that, oh, he's a waste of money. So yeah, it was like, again, the adaptation was hard, but like I said, I was preparing mentally and I was like taking everything as a test. Like, okay, can you solve this? Like, how can I get respect? How can I do this? Am I going to start next game? How can I start to get more respect? What do I need to do? And I was always like setting goals to myself and just seeing everything as a challenge. And with time, it became like very enjoyable to me. I was very good friends with everyone and really like felt like I was loved in the team, and it was really great.
Why is it so difficult to adjust in Lithuania? Was it just the people? Because as you said, that they're a bit stubborn. But why are they stubborn?
Yeah, in Lithuania, I would say that the young generation nowadays, it's more Western-like, but the old generation is very old school. Like people plus 35 years old, they always speak Russian. Very angry people, I would say. Like at least they seem angry. I don't understand what they're saying all the time, but like they seem very angry. They have this kind of mentality of schooling the players that you cannot make mistakes. You know, for example, in Scandinavian countries, you can make mistakes, and the coaches always say that, yeah, you can make mistakes, you just have to learn from them, blah blah blah. But there is like, no, you cannot make mistakes. If you make mistakes, you're gonna get shouted, and everyone was just so used to it. So I remember we had a coach for a very short time from Finland. Actually, I didn't know him from earlier, but they took a coach from Finland just for, I think, 3 months, because they used to sack coach every 5 months in that club. That's one thing. Also, like if you don't get the results, the owner of the club is just gonna, oh, okay, he's not good, sack him next. So that I think I had 8 coaches in 3 years. Imagine eight coaches in 3 years. But yeah, we had a Finnish coach for 3 months, and he said when he had a birthday and he brought a cake to the locker room, none of the players went to like just straight into the cake just to eat it because they were afraid. They were thinking like, what is the catch here? Why is the coach bringing a cake? Because the coach never used to bring a cake. And they were looking at each other like, what is this? This is a scam? Like, is he angry to us? Why is this some kind of test? And I was like, no, he's from Finland. He's going to bring a cake, and that's completely normal.
You spoke about the coaches, and there's a team in England, I'm not sure if you're aware, called Watford, and they like to go through managers like it's no one's business. They sack, and it's just it's really weird. But what's it like then to adjust to 8 coaches in 3 years? The ideologies of these coaches, their mentalities, they could be from Finland, they could also be from Russia.
Yeah. Obviously, it depends on the coach. With some coaches, it's easier. We had also one Swedish coach, Glenn Stahl. I really enjoyed playing with him. And I think the club was kind of trying to bring that culture from the Nordic countries to that, because the players are actually pretty similar. They're not very skillful in the sense of, or in comparison to the Southern Europe, but they're very physical and like mentally strong. So they like the kind of Nordic playing style, let's say Norway, Sweden, Denmark. I think they were trying to get that with the Finnish or the Swedish coach. But then, obviously, even when the results were pretty good, they still sacked them. I don't know why. But then they hired a Belarusian coach. And he was the exact opposite from those guys, because those guys were trying to bring the culture that, yeah, you can make mistakes. Yeah, we are here together. We don't want to like kind of destroy your self-image with one mistake. And then this Belarusian guy came in, and like I actually enjoyed it with him, because like I told you, I was seeing everything as a challenge. And I had very good conversations with him. He could not speak any English, but he was playing in Italy. He was Sergei Gurenko. He played in Roma when he was still playing himself. So he spoke a bit of Italian, and he was coached by Capello. And you can imagine Capello is very hard coach also. And then he played in CSKA Moscow, and the coach also there was crazy. And also in Belarus, crazy. Very harsh. So he was like kind of brought up from all these harsh coaches. So that's the only way he knows. He don't know how to be more like kind, or he don't care. His opinion was that if the player is not strong enough to handle his critique, he's not a good player. So I always set the like kind of challenges to myself. How can I accomplish something? How can I get through this? And there was moments with this coach, like 1 week I would play amazing game. He would say after the game that you played amazing game. You are doing fantastic. And then in the next game, he's going to sub me off in 42nd minute. So 3 minutes before the halftime, just to humiliate. 42 minutes took me off. Didn't say a word. We walk into the locker room in the halftime. I was like still thinking like, what just happened? Why am I on the bench? And he used first 5 minutes of the halftime just to shout to me on Russian. And I didn't understand anything because I cannot speak Russian. And he was just yelling and throwing this, magnets from the board, throwing those to my feet and just yelling to my face on Russian for 5 minutes straight. I didn't understand a word. Then he walked off, and the assistant coach came to me and like tapped my shoulder like it was nothing personal. I'm like, okay, good to know. And then in the next game, I was in the starting lineup again. So, anything can happen. You just have to, you cannot take it personally. I've seen so many coaches by now that you just have to kind of build that self-image and trust that you can go through anything and not be crushed by critique or different coaching styles or whatever. You just always have to have the belief in your own ability, and then you're going to be just fine.
We've only got a few minutes left, but I want to talk about what you want to do currently. So you were playing in the Icelandic top flight, but now you're back over in Finland, and there is a bit of a mist around this because you're looking to move in January.
Mm-hmm.
And where would you like to move in January? Are you looking to play first flight elsewhere from Finland? Because it seems to me Finland is the preferable choice to you.
Well, first of all, I'm going to correct. I played in the first division of Iceland, not the Premier League. Pretty weird move for me. Like after the time in Lithuania, I was expecting to go in a little bit better league. I had like an ambitious mind that I want to go somewhere nice or a little bit better. I had few offers from Eastern Europe, but I didn't want to go in the Eastern Europe. I wanted to move to the West or South. Didn't happen in the end, and I was stuck without club in the end of February because none of the things that we were like kind of working on didn't happen. So I just took it as a like kind of panic option because I didn't have a club and I didn't want to spend all year looking for a new team. So I went to Iceland very quickly. I got a message from Iceland that, hey, you're still free. Do you want to come here? And financially, it was pretty good. So I was just like, okay, I don't have anything else, so let's go. Went to Iceland, played there 1 season. And now I'm kind of hoping to not get into the same situation than last year. I hope I can find a team a little bit earlier. But obviously, my value as a player went down a bit, I think, when I went to Iceland. That's normal. But I still think it was a better option to play than wait until the summer. But yeah, I'm now a free agent. Would like to hopefully find a good solution for myself. Finland, I think the level of Finnish top league is getting good. It's almost, I would say, it's good already. There's a lot of good teams, but the issue with Finland is that financially it's very difficult to kind of. I understand if you're like 20 to 23 and you don't have to think about money and you can just focus on developing yourself. But I'm going to be 27 next year, so financial stuff is going to play a role on where I'm going to play. And in Finland, if you want to earn well, you have to play for the, I would say, top 4 clubs in the starting 11, and then you can earn actual good salary, and that's very difficult. And people in Finland, in overall, I don't think they know a lot about me. Like people from Finland who follow football, they don't know my name very well because I've never really played in Finland, except of those 2 seasons.
What's realistic for you? We've literally got less than a minute left. But what's realistic for you in England? Could there be a move to England, and if so, what division?
Funny question. I don't know. We played with my Lithuanian team. We played a Europa League qualification against Irelandic Premier League team, Derry City, and I think they are in the level of League 2. I would say in England, League 2, League 1, maybe League 2. I think at the moment League 2 will be like kind of my level, but then again, I don't know if the football is kind of what suits me. But if I would have to guess, I would say League 2, maybe League 1 in a very good day, but maybe League 2 is the kind of level where I would drop.
Well, that wraps up everything from me today. I really wish you the best in everything, and let's hope that you do come to England, and hopefully a team local to me, so I can come down and watch you. So I really, really thank you for coming on today.
No, thank you, mate. It was my pleasure.
All the best, and talk to you soon.
Yeah, all right. Thank you.